Hello again, music fans! James, your fellow music fan, music mole, Christian music historian, and resident music genius here. Today I'm going to tell you about one of my favorite bands from the 1980s. And, well, to be fair, they continued on into the 90s while reforming, have toured periodically in the 2000s, and did release an album in 2008. So technically, they're still around, and have existed. They are celebrating this year 30 years. But let's go back in time. 1980, Sacramento, California. A church known as Warehouse Christian Ministries has this brilliant idea. Let's form our own label and take the creative artists that have come near our church and put their albums out on our own label, and then not only release it for the Christian music industry, but let's aim for the mainstream as well. Great idea, huh? Well, one of the first bands formed in 1980, known as Scratch Band, led by an incredible guitarist and phenomenal musician as a whole, Mike Rowe, who also was honing his craft as a songwriter. In 1982, they would release their first album under the new name, The 77s. This album was Ping Pong Over the Abyss, and featured a lot of blues-oriented rock and roll, that while not finely polished, was a solid album. However, 1984 saw the release of All Fall Down, produced by fellow Exit artist Charlie Peacock, who has become a legend in Christian music annals and stories, as he has not only released amazing solo work, but he wrote the famous DC Talk song In the Light and Every Heartbeat by Amy Grant. Not too many people know that. Anyway, side story, because this is all about the 77s. Anyway, their 1984 album, All Fall Down, was produced by Charlie Peacock and saw them really grow as a band. They now were incorporating not only blues, but just pure American rock and roll, and even a little bit of Beach Boys influence on the song Your Pretty Baby, which saw Mike Rowe ranging into the falsetto, which was almost a dead ringer for Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. Incredible. However, in 1987, this was the year everything was supposed to go big for the 77s. They would release their self-titled album on Exit Records, but Exit had signed a mainstream distribution deal with Island Records, the same label that had the yet-to-be-well-known U2. This album is considered by many fans to be their finest moment, and began with an incredible rock song, Do It For Love, which should have easily been a top 10 single on radio stations for years. There was only one problem. The year was 1987. And as many Christian music historians will tell you, 1987 is the year U2 released The Joshua Tree, which became the album that would launch U2 into superstardom. And that album was released merely a month after the 77's album. Needless to say, Island didn't have a lot of money and chose to put all of their resources behind what they rightfully considered to be a big deal in U2's The Joshua Tree, leaving an incredible album by the 77s not really heard by many people. This was it for the 77s. Exit Records began to have financial problems, and they kind of folded. Island dropped them because 77s hadn't sold really anything compared to U2, and they were without a label. So from like late 1987 until 1990, they just kind of toured quite a bit in Sacramento. They had a bit of a cult following. They would record demos of songs when they got some studio time here and there, but nothing much. However, in 1990, Gene Eugene of Adam Again, a phenomenal band in their own right out of California, but that's a topic for another vlog, would sign them to his small little label, Broken Records. And in 1990, he would release an incredible album called Sticks and Stones, which gathered all of the songs the 77s had recorded and demoed as a band in that time from 1987 until 1990 and put it all together on one album. There were also several alternative cuts of songs from the 77's 1987 self-titled album, including an incredible version of Do It For Love that I mentioned earlier that was almost even more riper for rock radio. There were also 10 songs that had never been heard before. Particularly one that has always stood out to me is the 7-minute long Don't This Way, which features, in my opinion, some of the finest guitar solos anyone can hear anywhere. I rival it against any classic rock song you can find on classic rock radio today. I mean, this thing should be up there along the lines of Stairway to Heaven and Freebird. It's that good, in my opinion. There are guitar solos that just blow your mind, and they're just so catchy as well. But not only that song, if you're a fan of classic rock, but if you like pop music, oh, there's some beautiful pop songs here written by Michael Rowe's friend and keyboardist in the 77's, Mark Tootle. Okay, these songs are like Nowhere Else, This Is the Way Love Is, and You Walked in the Room. Phenomenal love songs that are just pop rock at its finest and also could easily sound at home on the radio, especially in the late 80s, early 90s. There's also the incredible Love Without Dreams, which is just great American rock and roll set on a bass of an acoustic guitar. But I swear, you'll be tapping your foot along to this song. You just will. It just happens. The best thing about this, friends, is it had been out of print for nearly 12 years. Until earlier this year, the 77s garnered all of the material that they had recorded in the era that this album was released, and have given us not one, not a 2-disc, but a 3-disc set. Aha! Included in here, the Stems and Seeds, which is disc 3 in a separate sleeve. But here we have, it's a full, fold-out, both discs, and a booklet in here telling us the story behind many of the songs, Mike Rowe writing it himself. Pretty awesome. There's also a lot of live songs and a few other outtakes from the era of 1987 to 1990 when they were touring and just demoing stuff whenever they could because they had no label. Needless to say, great thing to pick up. It's on their Bandcamp site online. It is a little steep. It's $30 for the 3 discs, but let me tell you, it's money worth it. You will not be let down. So with that, this is James, the Music Genius, signing off.